Business trends beyond the headlines.
We had a substantial capital available to invest.
Government policies, macro indices, market movement. Business Express.
Mics are up. Studio. And a good morning to you once more, Lagos. You're tuned in and listening to Smooth Breakfast on Smooth 98.1. But right now it's 45 minutes gone past 6, which means it's time to delve into the world of business inside of Business Express today with StanbicIBTC. Good morning, Rotus. How you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. Good morning, Folu. Good morning, everyone out there. YouTube, Twitter,
everybody out there.
Yes.
The social media platforms. We are streaming live on YouTube as usual, so you can take a look at our faces by going over to youtube.com/smooth981FM Lagos. But you can send us messages not just on the the live YouTube feed, but also by tweeting at us. Just use the hashtag BusinessExpress981 or send us your messages to our WhatsApp number, which is 0809 444 0981.
Thank you. I want to welcome Efe Mehna from Stanbic. Efe Mehna is a consumer goods analyst. Is that correct?
Correct.
Welcome to the show, Efe Mehna.
Thank you for
Good
having
morning.
me.
Welcome.
Good morning. So, of course, Lagos. So that's what we're going to be focusing on. So that's her sector. It's consumer goods. So if you have any questions or anything, just we're going to stick with the consumer goods sector. But real quick, going over the market activity for yesterday. Again, it was bearish 0.45%, 37,253.25 points is where we closed the all share index. So far this month, down by 2.6% for July. So far for the year, 2.5% in the negative region. 15 gainers, 25 losers, led by Custodian and Allied Insurance. So it was top gainer up by 10% yesterday. The top loser was Julius Berger, down by 10% in the same region. We are still at 360 naira to the dollar as far as the foreign exchange is concerned. So if it would like to know your thoughts on market activity and any particular stocks, I guess, you like, if any, with where things are right now.
Yeah, thanks, Rotus. So the market, Nigeria's stock market hasn't been left out of the risk-off sentiments we've seen across emerging markets.
Okay.
But interestingly, Nigeria remains one of the better performing stock markets till date. And so when we look at the stock market today, particularly in the consumer sectors, we still see relatively attractive names.
Okay.
So up to date, since 2016, we've had a preference for food producers.
Okay.
Because we thought the pressure on consumer disposable incomes will favor the food producers. And in that sense, we like Nestle and Unilever.
Okay.
We have a buy recommendation on both those names. Nestle at a target price of 1,902 naira.
Okay.
And Unilever at a target price of 67 naira. We have a preference for Nestle to Unilever currently, just based on the historical outperformance on its operating metrics, so revenue growth, margins, earnings, dividend payment, and we think that will likely continue.
Okay.
We also like Dangote Sugar and Nascon.
Okay.
We have buy on those names too. Dangote at a target price of 29 and Nascon at 30. And we have a preference for Nascon to Dangote Sugar because we think the story for Nascon is a little bit cleaner.
Okay.
It has a stronger market share with just 2 players compared to Dangote, where there are 3 players. It has been able to sustain stronger margins, and it's just a very simple and very nice stories that investors are waking up to.
Okay.
Similarly, we like Okomo and Presco.
Okay.
We have a preference for Okomo to Presco among the palm oil producers. You'll notice I haven't mentioned any of the brewers.
Right, yeah. I mean, we're just coming off the World Cup isn't over yet. I would assume that people are still, even though Nigeria is out, people are still hitting the stores to make brewery purchases. But yeah, you're not going there yet.
It's a tough sector. I mean, like I mentioned, disposable incomes have been under pressure and consumers have been trading down. Some brewers have gained over others, particularly international brewers that had cheaper brands in the market.
Okay.
And you see heightened competition across the brewers. I think we've seen 5 new lager brands in the past 12 months.
Right.
And compound that with excise duties that forced price increase. I think demand will remain pressured in that sector. And you can see that reflected in the stock performance for these brewers, which prices have trended downwards for the last 52 weeks.
Okay.
So quite bearish on the sector in the near term.
In the near term, yeah. Okay. Yesterday we talked about about sugar. There was a Bloomberg. I just want to get your thoughts. There was a Bloomberg article on how consumers around the world are more conscious of their health, and so they're buying less sugar products, or less soft drinks and so on with sugar in them, and candies and so on. And there was also a talk about oversupply from, I guess, Thailand, Brazil, and so on. In your notes, when you're talking about Dangote sugar, you're talking about if you had any concerns, it would be global sugar prices and then FX pressures. With where things are, I'm understanding that the global sugar prices are coming down. That should theoretically help a player like a Dangote sugar or the other players if prices are down. Yes, for imports. Or
yes.
Where are you with that? Yeah,
that's correct.
Okay.
So we actually consume more sugar when prices are lower. And you see that across the volume performance for sugar refiners.
Okay.
I think what's different this time around is the level of smuggling we've seen as FX becomes more available in the market.
Okay.
So the incidences of smuggled sugar increased to about 30%, according to Dangote Sugar in Q1.
Okay.
Previously, we would be talking about somewhere around 10%. And so that sort of impacts what sugar refiners can sell into the market if that's not contained.
All right. Okay, guys out there, please remember that as usual, before you make any stock picks based on what our guests like, that you do your due diligence and reach out to a broker such as Stanbic, right?
Correct.
So
reach out to StanbicIBTC stock brokers.
Exactly. So they'll guide you down the right path. So. All right, let's move into some stories here. We earlier on the show we talked about the consumer expectations survey that was carried out by the Central Bank of Nigeria. They surveyed about 2,000 households. They asked them their outlook for this quarter, how they saw prices in the near term, and so on. It wasn't very positive, at least in the near term from the household perspective. But they did think that down the line for the rest of this year, things maybe would pick up. So we're going to look at the flip side of that, which is the business expectation survey that was also carried out by the CBN. And Efe, I think this was relatively positive based on the survey results that the CBN got. What were your thoughts?
I think it's difficult for business not to be positive.
Right.
We're in recovery, GDP numbers are positive, inflation is trending downwards, FX is available and stable. But the fact remains that consumers haven't caught up to this recovery story. We haven't seen significant increase, if we have at all, in salaries and wages. So you need a commensurate level of demand to chase business expansion. And the consumer is just not there now. If you talk about outlook, yes, you can talk about potential catalysts for the consumer. I think one of the biggest topics on the table is whether or not we'll see a minimum wage increase in the later part of the year.
Right. The minimum wage increase. Okay, so everyone I've asked that's come on the show, when we talk about the possibility of an increase in minimum wage, the issue though is the cost with where things are with the budget. I don't know. Do you think that's realistic? I mean, I don't know if 50,000 naira is going from 18 to 50,000, which is the amount that's been bandied about. Again, Lagos, that's just the rumored amount. That's not come from the government or anybody official. That's just something that people threw out there. I personally don't think that's a possibility, but I don't know. I mean, do you think with where costs are and what the government is dealing with, that's something that can be done?
I think it needs to happen. If you look at inflation in the double digits for the last 8 years since we had the last minimum wage, I think you have to make it happen.
Okay.
In order to see the level of economic recovery you're looking for, the consumer has to be empowered. And also, I think it's more likely because we're in a political cycle that they make it happen. Right.
Before the elections come in. Oh, speaking of do we have a message out there? Or?
Yes, indeed. We've got a quick message coming in. Lots of love going in for Efe. Says, Ringmaker says, enough said by our darling Efe. Good stuff from Business Express. We're getting more women behind the mic to educate us. They have always done such an awesome job at it.
Hey, yes, I agree.
Very interesting. And then Gwenga Kamu had sent a comment earlier about DSTV subscription rising by August, saying that, listen, I think that is a product of lack of competition in that sector, so we have to pay more.
Gwenga, I don't know if he's in my head. He seems to preempt some of these stories. Yeah, Gwenga, we're actually going to talk about that. But real quick, if you mentioned the elections, with where the market is right now, you think it's going to remain, and it's not, I don't want to put you on the spot with a crystal ball, but generally, I don't know, with foreign investors, I think they get a little jittery before the elections, and with the market activity you've seen lately?
I mean, it's expected that investors get cautious ahead of elections if there is a significant amount of uncertainty. What's interesting when we look at past elections is that when there was a certain level of certainty about who will come out as president, the markets were relatively positive in the run-up to elections,
right.
the months to elections. I think it's unfortunate this time around that the market slowed down much earlier
right.
because of the risk of sentiment in emerging markets than we expected.
Yeah.
I think the political landscape is getting more interesting as we go along. So at the end of the day, it's all about certainty.
Yeah, yeah.
When we get a sense that about who is running and whose chances are stronger to come out in February 2019,
yeah.
I think investors make their bets
from
in
there.
line with that.
Okay, all right. Well, let's. I wanted to do this AfDB story on infrastructure gap, but I don't know how many minutes. Okay, we've got a few minutes. Why don't we just do this multi-choice thing since Benga has already preempted us? So again, I guess this goes into consumer pockets again. Efe, multi-choice is adjusting, I guess, DSTV and GoTV subscription prices. I think they're going in opposite directions. GoTV is going a little. They're reducing that. DSTV is going up. Benga has already told that he's not liking it. I don't think consumers across the board are going to be very happy about this. But it's a price increase. They're saying it's because of inflation and a number of other things. What do you think? Yeah, reasonable or?
I think on the one hand, when you look at cost inflation, it's reasonable to expect that a business will have to increase its prices to maintain a certain level of profit margins. But on the other hand, the consumer has not seen a commensurate inflation in their salaries and wages.
Right.
So you have to strike that fine balance in maintaining a healthy level of demand. And I think time will tell if the consumer environment can take this round of price increase. Right.
Any threats you think from this stream? I don't want to turn this into Tech Friday, but any threats you see from the streaming services? I know data prices are something to think about for Nigerians, but you think they can challenge the establishments going forward?
I don't know about that. I mean, there is data out there in more developed countries that they've lost cable network viewers to internet streaming. I don't subscribe to any cable network.
No, okay, interesting. Okay, all right, we'll see how that works out. All right, so this was what we're going to touch on before the multi-choice price increase. The AfDB rolls out plans to close the $130 billion, not naira, $130 billion infrastructure gap. This is the African Development Bank earlier this week. If it looks like they want to get a mix of private enterprise to join them in trying to close this gap, it's a lot of money. How do you see this particular plans from them?
I think any plan to bridge the infrastructure gap in Africa is positive, first of all. And there's a tendency for us to think that when developmental banks are involved in projects, there's more transparency and governance. And I guess that could encourage private sector interest in this project. So that's positive.
Okay.
But what's key at the end of the day is the level of implementation and how well these plans are executed.
Right. We remain positive. We have our guy, Folu, that's the head of the AfDB. He used to be Minister of Agriculture. All right, Efe Mehna, oh, by the way, Efe Mehna is the CFA. You guys, Lagos, you know my struggle with this exam. She's established, certified chartered financial analyst, so I bowed down, and I'm still going to keep the fights going. Do you have any more messages?
Yes, we got this one in from Yinka, who says, I think every Nigerian businessman needs to use the DSTV model as a learning case study. These guys are businessmen, period. They brought back Serie A into their list long before Cristiano Ronaldo landed at Juventus. So come on, guys, it's only normal to want to cash in on such a move. What we should be talking about is how the other TD guys should step up.
All right. Thank you for that, Yinka. Thank you so much. That's to do it. Yeah. About 20 seconds. All right, 20 seconds to thank Efe very much. StanbicIBTC.
Thank you for having me.
For joining us on the show. Appreciate your insight.
We appreciate having all of you guys and everyone that sent in messages. Thank you very much. Coming up next, we've got some great music, Smooth Criminal and the likes coming up, and then at 7:30, detailed newspaper analysis inside of Freshly Pressed. Good morning, Lagos.
Thank you.
World business news from a Nigerian perspective that help you stay informed more than just numbers.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Business Express on Smooth 98.1 in association with StanbicIBTC every Thursday from 6:45 a.m.
StanbicIBTC, moving forward.